rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. The Bible prophesies the future of the United States of America and what our relationship with Israel will be in the end times. Will the election of Donald Trump prove to be a prophetic event? And are the new president's actions so far lining up with the prophecies? We'll answer today, so stay with us. Now, let's talk about things right now. First of all, what does the Bible actually prophesy for America? Some people would be skeptical. Oh, I don't think the United States of America is even in the Bible. So we're going to do a quick study here because many of you are familiar with this material. But in Daniel chapter number 7, there's a prophecy of all the nations that will be prominent on the earth at the time of the second coming of Jesus. The prophecy uses beasts to symbolize nations. Now, I'm not making that up. It says right there in the prophecy that the fourth beast will be the fourth kingdom. So it plainly teaches that each of these beasts symbolize kingdoms or nations. And there are four beasts: a lion with eagle's wings, a bear, a leopard, and a 10-horned beast. God did not pick symbols indiscriminately. He picked symbols that would have meaning at the time of the prophetic fulfillment. Now remember, all these nations will be on the earth at the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. So if we can prove these nations are here right now, we can prove we're in the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. The first beast was a lion. You probably know there's a major nation today whose recognized symbol is the lion. Look it up, the Webster's Third International Dictionary under lion, the symbol of a country, Great Britain. Go to London, stand at Trafalgar Square at the center of London. You'll see four huge lions, one looking north, one south, one east, one west. And there's lions all over London because the lion is the official emblem of Great Britain. The second beast was a bear. All of you know about the Russian bear. Now, is this all coincidence, something written 2,500 years ago? And the lion had eagle's wings. A major nation has the symbol of the eagle. Pull a dollar bill out of your pocket, look on the back. There it is, the official seal of the United States of America. And the eagle's wings were depicted growing out of the lion. Where did the United States come from? From the lion, Great Britain, our mother country. And then the prophecy says there in Daniel 7 verse 4, I watched until the wings were plucked, broken off from the lion, the Declaration of Independence. Okay, now, if you can believe that's all coincidence, you have more faith than I do. Anyway, when we move from Daniel 7 to the New Testament, Revelation chapter 13, written about 650 years later, we have another prophecy of the nations that will be on the earth at the end time. Only now we're further down the pike because these nations have now merged into one beast, not four separate beasts. The one beast in Revelation 13, verse 1 and 2 states that this beast has the body of the leopard, which is Germany. I didn't mention that a while ago. The feet of the bear, Russia. The mouth of the lion, Great Britain. And then the 10 horns of the 10-horn kingdom. That's a 10-nation alliance that will soon arise out of Europe. But what's the main point? Okay, so we know that Russia is going to be an integral part of the kingdom of the Antichrist. We know that the leopard, Germany, is going to be an integral part. We know that Great Britain will be. Now, you can prove that this combo beast stands for the end-time world government because it goes on to say that it will devour the whole earth. And it specifically speaks about the ruler of this one world government, the Antichrist. In verse number 5, it says, and power was given unto the beast to continue 42 months, 3.5 years, which in many other places in Scripture is described as the length of the reign of the Antichrist. It will be short, but it will be very intense. Now, let's get to the point. So I didn't notice the eagle when we moved from 4 separate nations into one New World Order nation in Revelation 13. No eagle's wings. So apparently the United States is not going to be a part of the one world governmental system. But we do have another prophecy in Revelation chapter number 12, verse number 14, that depicts the eagle's wings protecting Israel against the world government of the Antichrist in the end time. So what do we deduct from that then? We're able to decide that, number one, the United States of America is not going to be a part of the one world government. And number two, we're going to defend Israel against the one world government and the kingdom of the Antichrist. So that's what the Bible prophesies. Now, let's go to what is in fact happening. Let's look at Donald Trump's actions in the first 2 or 3 days of his government. Oh, by the way, it's like he's almost done the work of an entire term as president in the first 2 or 3 days. You talk about a man of action. Well, he is a man of action. So let's look at Trump's actions against world government so far. During his campaign, he talked very strongly against the United States being a part of the one world governmental system. He actually talked about even the possibility of withdrawing from the United Nations. And furthermore, now that he is president, he has already given the order to start building the wall. Now, you all know that under the Obama administration, the walls have been down and the borders have been down. People have been coming in like a flood. We have, some people say, 12 million illegal immigrants in this nation right now. Well, especially with the threat of international terrorism, Donald Trump has said, we have to stop illegal immigration. We want immigration, but we want it to be legal immigration. We don't want the doors of our house to be flung wide open. Anybody can move in that wants to move in. Consequently, in the first 3 days of his presidency, he's already given the order to start building the wall that he promised all during his campaign. Now, many people said, I know he's saying he's going to build a wall, but he's not going to really build a wall. Well, you're going to get disappointed, apparently, because he has already issued an executive order to set in motion the building of the wall. And also, the money's already there. I mean, it's been appropriated by Congress for several years, but none of the presidents took advantage of that. So he's given the order to start accessing that money, saying we will recover this from our trade with Mexico later. So is Trump indeed moving to restore American sovereignty and to not move into a system of global governance like President Obama wanted and like Hillary Clinton wanted? She said, we don't need to be building walls. We need to be building bridges, because she was an avid advocate of one world government, just like Barack Obama. They all dream of someday having a worldwide socialist, Marxist government in order to rule the world. Everybody will live the same. Everybody will be equal. Wealth will be redistributed so that your neighbor will have exactly what you have and you'll have exactly what they have. So there'll be no more economic strife or competition. It's going to be utopia. Now, that's the theory of the Marxists, and that's where we were headed really fast. However, Donald Trump doesn't believe in Marxism, and therefore now he's saying we're going to restore sovereignty, and the first step to doing that is to build the wall. He also has just ordered, either yesterday or today, to suspend immigration of most Muslims. Matter of fact, I believe he's suspending all immigration right now until we can get a handle on how to vet people properly. So I believe the last article I read was that he's suspending all immigration, stopping it dead in its tracks. And that's okay. You say, but what about those people's constitutional rights? Ladies and gentlemen, they don't have any constitutional rights. The Constitution is for the United States of America. If you're an American citizen, you have constitutional rights. If you're not an American citizen, you don't have any constitutional rights because that's a U.S. Constitution. They have no right to move into our house freely. I mean, how would you like it if someone showed up at your house, sat down in your living room and flipped on your television and said, I live here now. What are we having for dinner? By the way, you can't let me go hungry. You owe me some dinner. I don't think that would go over very big for very long. Do you? You don't know whether this person is, you don't know who it is. Anyway, that's what's been happening in the United States of America. We have not defended our borders. So the misconception that these people have rights, when they come into this country, they don't have any rights because they are invaders. If they have not come in legally, now if they come in legally, that's a whole nother subject. But if they come in illegally, they have no rights. Now, I'm not saying that we should not have compassion on people and all that. That's a whole nother subject for another day. Anyway, President Trump is fulfilling his promises. He was not blowing hot air on his campaign. He's moving so fast that people can hardly react before he's got on to the next subject and the next and the next. And it's like they're all gasping for breath just to try to stay up with his pace right now. Of course, we shouldn't be surprised by that because that's the way he campaigned for the presidency, and that's the reason he ultimately won. He outworked everybody out there. Well, anyway, we're talking about, since the Bible prophesies the United States is not going to be a part of the one world government of the Antichrist, is Donald Trump, in fact, either on purpose or inadvertently, pulling America back from its involvement in one world government? Well, the first day or so of his presidency, he ordered the removal of all references to climate change from the White House website. Now, climate change is the horse that the one-worlders intended to ride to one world government. Their whole theory was, look, the air is polluted, the water is polluted, we all have to breathe the same air, we all have to drink the same water, therefore we must have a set of international laws that all people are obligated to abide by. It must be a United Nations Treaty on Climate Change. And they insisted we had to have this, or else there was going to be global warming and all the ice caps would melt and the oceans would rise and we would have utter chaos and mankind would not survive. You've heard all the rhetoric. Well, Donald Trump apparently been looking at some of the things that I personally looked at. I remember, what's it been now, several years ago, I was hearing all this about global warming. And I suspected something was wrong, but I didn't want to write about it until I knew what I was talking about. So I began to read articles. I began to dig in. Plus, I noticed the temperatures weren't really warming that much. So as I continued to investigate, I began to find out that there were major flaws in the argument. And I found one incriminating fact. I found out that they've dug down through 12 feet of ice in Greenland and found farms that were being farmed 1,000 years ago that are under 12 feet of ice today. Well, obviously that means it was a lot warmer 1,000 years ago than it is now. And yet the world didn't disappear, nor all drown. And I also read that the Vikings were sailing through the northern straits many years ago. You can't do that today. It's all frozen over. So my common sense, which is sometimes rare, but anyway, my common sense told me it was warmer then than it is now. And I remembered back in 1975, the Time magazine put out articles warning of the coming ice age. Then here we are, 30, 35 years later, and Time magazine is warning us of the world's going to perish because of global warming. Well, I kept digging until I realized that the one-worlders felt like climate, well, first of all, I called it global warming. But they had a big problem because all of a sudden, the temperature stayed the same and even declined a little bit. For the last 18 years, we've had no increase of temperature. And so after a while, it was becoming ridiculous. They were talking about global warming, so they changed their message to climate change. Now, all you got to do is say it over and over and over. And are you scared yet? Climate change, climate change, climate change. And all the professors are talking about climate change. Do you believe in climate change? And they go on and on. I mean, it's like we've lost our intelligence. Of course, there's climate change. It's going to change tomorrow. It'll change the next day and the next and the next. The issue is the earth warming to the point that it's going to destroy planet Earth? Some people even think if we'd warm up a couple of degrees, it would actually be a benefit because it gives us a longer growing season and the crops grow bigger. Many people really believe that. Well, anyway, they changed to climate change. But Donald Trump didn't buy it all. They even accused him during the campaign of being a climate change denier. Well, apparently he really is, because he's removed all the reference from the White House website to climate change. Now, this is a stab in the heart of the one world government movement, at least in the United States of America. So, since the United States has got to get out of the one world government, it looks like the Trump administration is being used by God, either they know it or they don't, to actually position the United States to fulfill its prophesied role in the days just ahead. Now let's look at it from another perspective. Actions in favor of Israel, since the Bible says that the United States will protect Israel. I'll tell you what, let's do. I want to pause right there, because I know that many of you out there depend on this program for your alternative news. Our news has been so controlled for so long. About 94% of all the news media that contributed to the political campaign this last year, they contributed to the Democratic side, to the liberal causes. 94%, which means that all of those newsmakers and journalists, they all bend everything through their point of view. Well, Donald Trump quickly detected that, and so he has been taking them to task like there's no tomorrow, because they do tend to twist things and bend things in order to influence the elections of the American people. Well, we here at Endtime Ministries are trying to give you honest answers, not representing Democrat, not representing Republican. Now, if one party is closer to a biblical stance than the other party, then it's going to sound like we're favoring that particular party. Anyway, I'm just telling you that we here at Endtime Ministries are trying to supply you with things you need to know, and especially you need to know what the Bible prophesies so you can know when it's coming. That's what we do here. We interpret world events in light of Bible prophecy. Okay. In order for us to stay on the air, we do need your support, and you've been wonderful. We thank you. I told you a month and a half ago that we ended up, actually it was on December the 1st, that we had a deficit in our media bill of $470,000. You have responded so wonderfully, and now then that media bill stands at $29,000. I'm hoping by tomorrow, Thursday, that we're able to make that up. I don't know for sure what's happened since Monday, but anyway, if you can help us, let's get that thing wiped out by tomorrow. I know somebody called saying if so many people would give $25 each, it would solve it, and it would. Obviously, if 29 people gave $1,000 each, that would take care of it, or 290 people give $100 each. Whatever the case may be, whether it's 25, 100, 1,000, 5,000, whatever you want to do, I'm asking you, wipe this deficit out by tomorrow, because this year, I'm telling you, this year is going to be so laden with fulfilled Bible prophecy that we need to be on top of it every day here at Endtime Ministries. So anyway, please help us. The number to call, if you want to help us, the number to call is 800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. If you prefer to do it online, simply go to our website, endtime.com. That's ENDTIME.com. Click the donate button. And as you call or as you give online, just put in there media. That way we'll know what you're designating it for. And let me tell you, you're going to take a load off my shoulders if you do this. We don't want to go off one station because we feel like we need to be expanding, not shrinking. And so we haven't gone off, but we need your help to stay on the air and to really let you know this year, this is going to be a prophecy ride this year. So make sure you help us if you possibly can. Okay, now let's take a look at the actions in favor of Israel so far. Donald Trump, while on the campaign trail, said, I will move the United States Embassy to Jerusalem. Now, the United Nations has said, oh no, Jerusalem, it does not belong to Israel. Therefore, they've asked all the nations of the world to put their embassies in Tel Aviv in order to protest Israel's possession of Jerusalem. And so, like 193 little puppy dogs, all the nations have obeyed, sad to say, including the United States of America. In 1995, our Congress, wanting to move our embassy to Jerusalem, to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, we passed a law that the president had to move our embassy to Jerusalem by, I think it was 1999. The only way he could get out of it was to certify to the Congress that it would endanger national security. So, consequently, every 6 months, that's how often it has to be reappraised. Every 6 months, the presidents, Bush, Clinton, and Obama, have gone before the Congress, or at least have sent an official document saying, I am invoking the waiver from moving the embassy to Jerusalem. That was done by President Obama in November. The next time it's up is June. This time it will be President Trump having to sign the waiver. Will he sign it? I personally doubt it. Don't know for sure. So far, everything he has said he will do, he's doing. If he reneges on this promise, it'll be the first one so far. Now, I think he's determined to do it because he's already appointed our ambassador to Israel, Mr. David Friedman. And David Friedman has a home in Jerusalem, and he's already let everybody know that he's going to live in Jerusalem and he's going to work from Jerusalem. So even though we have a building in Tel Aviv that says U.S. Embassy, yet our ambassador is going to be in Jerusalem and he's going to be working there. We have 2 consulates he can use for his headquarters there. It looks like to me Trump is already quietly, in fact, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, even though not officially at this particular point. Furthermore, I just read a couple of days ago that the architect who goes around the world designing U.S. embassies is in Israel right now, looking things over, and different people are looking for a suitable site in Jerusalem to build our new embassy, or to look over the present consulates, and we have almost a new one there, a big consulate that could be turned into our embassy overnight. Now, the Bible says that we are going to defend Israel against the Antichrist, all during the time of the Great Tribulation. We're getting really close to the time of the Great Tribulation right now. So far, it appears that the Trump administration is favoring Israel and is willing to defend Israel against the international community. Now, here's another important point. President Trump has already scheduled for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, to come to America in a couple of weeks. It's early February. I don't think they've set a firm date yet. So what I'm telling you is that's where we are right now. It looks like that the election of Donald Trump is a fulfillment of Bible prophecy, and he at this present time is making all the moves. And he's only been in office since what, Friday? Not even a week yet, and he is moving like a tornado to bring all these things to pass. Now, here's an interesting thing that's happened. All of you know that after the elections, Barack Obama wanted to stick the knife in Israel, and therefore he participated in the passage of a resolution against Israel, Resolution 2334 at the United Nations, which stated that Israel's presence in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, was a flagrant violation of international law. Now that means that it's illegal if you believe in international law Now, I don't believe in international law, but most of the world is embracing it. And the United Nations uses economic sanctions to force compliance and also uses military invasion to enforce compliance. So even though I don't believe we should have international law, we should not have a world government system, nevertheless, we do have it, and the Bible prophesies we're going to have a world government in the days just ahead of us, and that the Antichrist is going to rule over it. Consequently, it's now officially enshrined in international law as of December the 23rd that Israel is occupying that territory illegally. Now, I do not believe it whatsoever, but that's what they're saying right now. Consequently, Israel's in a very precarious position and could be invaded by the United Nations and will be invaded by the United Nations, but not until after the final 7-year period, not until the time of the Battle of Armageddon. So here we are, 2017, 50 years after Israel captured its longtime capital. This is the 50th anniversary. They will celebrate Jerusalem Day on May the 24th. So what's going to happen? Will there be a peace agreement? Will the U.S. move its embassy to Jerusalem? I'm telling you, there are major prophetic developments that are happening right now. Once again, all of you out there that would like to be a blessing to Endtime Ministries and help us to meet our obligation, for your special donation, Market Media, simply call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com. Please, I am begging, please help us with this. We need to put this to bed right now so we can go full blast into 2017. Thank you so much.
From Here to Armageddon, a new exciting 8-lesson series to share with your friends and family. Order yours right away.
Answering many questions like how far are we from the Battle of Armageddon? What will happen between now and then? Where are we on the timeline? Your questions answered in this exciting 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-ENDTIME, 1-800-363-8463. Order yours right away.
Most people have dreamed of someday walking on the ground where Jesus walked over 2,000 years ago. You don't want to wait any longer. Make this the year for your life-changing experience. Judy and I would like to invite you to join us for our 2017 Spring End Time Prophecy Tour. This is a 14-day trip to Israel and Rome. Please join us to experience the greatest place on earth, the Promised Land, with an added bonus, Rome, Italy. Start making your plans right now and join us April 30th through May 13th of 2017. We're going to have a wonderful time.
Call now to reserve your place today at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have news reports running out my ears today that directly pertain to the fulfillment of the prophecies of the Bible. We were talking in the first part of our program about Donald Trump withdrawing from international organizations. Well, I'm looking at this article that just came out. It's titled, Trump Prepares Orders Aiming at Global Funding and Treaties. It simply says this: the Trump administration is preparing executive orders that would clear the way to drastically reduce the United States' role in the United Nations and other international organizations, as well as begin a process to review and potentially abrogate certain forms of multilateral treaties, officials said. The first of the two draft orders, titled Auditing and Reducing U.S. Funding, of international organizations and obtained by the New York Times calls for terminating funding for any United Nations agency or other international body that meets any of one of several criteria. Those criteria include organizations that give full membership to the Palestinian Authority or Palestine Liberation Organization, or support programs that fund abortion or any activity that circumvents sanctions against Iran and North Korea. Now, I can't take time to read the whole thing. I haven't got to read the whole article yet. This is just breaking news. But Donald Trump is preparing an executive order to analyze all of our contributions to international organizations. He apparently is making war on global governance, and he should. The Bible is against it. The present move toward global governance is going to end up straight in the lap of the Antichrist, and we should not go there. So far, he's doing better than I anticipated him doing. He is moving together. He's moving with great speed. I mean, he's not even been in the presidency for a week yet. And yet he's making these huge leaps. It's pretty astounding, to say the least. Let me go back, because I had another article I wanted to tell you about. This article comes from Israel National News just today. State Department reviewing Obama's last-minute aid to the Palestinian Authority. The State Department is reviewing a last-minute decision by former Secretary of State John Kerry to send, are you ready for this? $221 million to the Palestinian Authority in the final hours of the Obama administration. This comes from Associated Press. On Monday, the Associated Press revealed that former President Barack Obama defied Republican opposition and quietly released the money to the Palestinian Authority just before, hours before Donald Trump became president. The State Department said on Tuesday it would look at the payment and could make adjustments to ensure it complies with the Trump administration's priorities. Now, Congress had initially approved the funding, and yet the committee that controls those things, if the PA is violating certain stipulations that America places on the contribution of these funds, they're able to put a hold on the money. And one of the things that the Palestinian Authority did, they signed an agreement when they signed the Oslo Peace Accords in 1993. They signed an agreement that they would not join any international organizations or seek to change the status quo except through direct negotiations. Well, now the Palestinians are refusing to go to direct negotiations, which have been offered again and again and again. And instead, they went and joined the International Criminal Court, an international organization. They made application to join the United Nations. They were turned down. They went to the General Assembly of the United Nations, and there they were accepted as a non-member state party, meaning we recognize your statehood, but you're not a member of the United Nations. So they have made repeated attempts to join a lot of international, and they even, since they now belong to the International Criminal Court, they have the ability to file charges against Israel. And the International Criminal Court could then summons Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Rivlin, generals in the Israeli Defense Forces, and bring them before the International Criminal Court, prosecute them there, and place them behind bars. That's the power of the International Criminal Court. And the Palestinians went and joined that international organization against their agreement, and therefore we put a hold on this contribution. Well, 2 or 3 or 4 hours before Donald Trump became president on noon Friday, sometime in the morning, President Obama and John Kerry ordered the release of $221 million that had been on hold. The Congress normally places those holds, and the executive branch respects that. But instead, Barack Obama, as a parting shot, I mean, I'm sure as Donald Trump made his inauguration speech, he didn't even know about this yet. And there sat Barack Obama smugly, probably smiling inside, saying, you don't know it, but I just gave $221 million to the Palestinians. And you'll find it out later. Well, now then, this story says the State Department is reviewing this last-minute move by Barack Obama. Now, will they be able to reverse it? I do not know the answer to that question, whether they will or will not. Very interesting. Also, another story breaking today. Moving embassy would be a declaration of war on Islam. Moving the embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to the Israeli capital, Jerusalem, would be a declaration of war on Islam. Influential Iraqi cleric Muqtada al-Sadr said Tuesday, transferring the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem would be a public and more explicit than ever declaration of war against Islam, he said in a statement. Al-Sadr responded to reports by the White House that deliberations on the possible move had begun. On Sunday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer acknowledged the Trump administration was examining the issue, but emphasized deliberations had only just begun on the matter. So that's what's going on right now. I am taking your calls on the program today. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. Do you feel like you're sort of riding on a bucking bronco, or do you sort of feel like you're riding on a race car? Because this Trump administration, they have come out with all guns blazing. They're moving ahead very, very rapidly, building the wall, issuing this order now to reappraise any contributions to the world governmental system. And, well, there's so much more that I'm not even mentioning today. They are moving ahead very rapidly to fulfill the promises that Donald Trump made on the campaign trail. But everybody said, oh, he won't really do that. He won't really do that. But he's really doing it. It's going to be very interesting to see where all this leads. Well, let's get to the phones now. Jim is calling from Indiana. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, I was wondering, it looks like Trump would be a good guy to be commander-in-chief during World War III. Do you think there's a possibility World War III will come during his administration?
There is an extreme possibility, Jim, probably a probability that will happen, because it's time for that war right now. As a matter of fact, I've been saying for several years that there are two major prophetic fulfillments just ahead. Either one of them that occurs will be the biggest prophetic fulfillment since the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Those two prophecies are, one, World War III, the sixth trumpet war, as described in Revelation 9, verse 13 through 16. The other one would be the signing of a Middle East peace agreement, which will trigger the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon. I think it's extremely likely that both of those events could very well happen during the administration of Donald Trump. So we're living definitely in the end time when everything's converging.
Okay, thank you much.
Okay, well, thank you as well, Jim. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not exaggerating. When I am talking about these things, I'm reading to you from news sources, and they're sources that have proven to be trustworthy. Now, there's a couple of stories circulating right now that I've not been able to verify to my satisfaction. Let me just tell you what one of them is. ISIS leader critically wounded in Iraq airstrikes. It says that ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, he's the caliph of the international caliphate as declared by ISIS. He reportedly was badly wounded in an airstrike against the terror organization in Iraq a couple of days ago. I do not yet know. Many people are reporting this, but I'm not totally comfortable because they've reported that he was killed 2 or 3 times before and it hasn't happened. However, just a couple of weeks ago, America upped its reward for information leading to his death or capture from $10 million to $25 million. We no sooner up that until we get this report. $25 million. I don't know if it becomes true And if someone tipped them off as to where he was, somebody's going to have $25 million slid into their pockets, probably delivered by night on a runway somewhere in all cash. I don't know exactly how that's going to happen, but anyway, it is interesting. They just upped the reward to an astronomical $25 million. And all we need is a phone call from you telling us where he is and when he's going to be there. If we get him, you get the money. Now, that's what's on the table. Now they're reporting they got him, that he was critically wounded in these airstrikes. We still don't know for positive that this is factual. That's the reason I'm not willing to report that as fact. However, we do have a couple of other articles that I think should come to you. This report comes from Israel National News just today. Trump to restrict immigration from some Muslim countries. Here's what the article's saying. U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to sign several executive orders on Wednesday, that's today, restricting immigration from Syria and 6 other Middle Eastern or African countries. Reuters reported on Tuesday. Details of the executive orders were disclosed to the news agency by several congressional aides and immigration experts briefed on the matter. In addition to Syria, Trump's orders are expected to temporarily restrict access to the United States for most refugees. Another order will block visas from being issued to Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, said the aides and experts who asked not to be identified. Trump's restrictions on refugees are likely to include a multi-month ban on admissions from all countries. Now look at that. A multi-month ban on admissions from all countries until the State Department and the Department of Homeland Security can increase the intensity of the vetting process. Trump is expected to sign the orders at the Washington headquarters of the Department of Homeland Security, whose responsibilities include immigration and border security. During the election campaign, Trump caused an uproar when he called for a temporary ban on Muslim entry to the United States in order to prevent terrorism. We will be taking your calls in the last segment of our program. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877 Endtime.
If ever people need to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will really impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine did in my life. Call 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-ENDTIME and get your subscription today.
We do have open lines today. This is your chance. Normally, we have a full bank of callers, but we have open lines today. So if you want to get in, talk with me on the air, ask a question or give your comment, the number to call is 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. I found it very interesting that Yehuda Glick traveled to the United States to attend the inauguration of Donald Trump. Now, let me give you a little background about Yehuda Glick. I heard about him several years ago. I found him very interesting because he had devoted himself to the rebuilding of the Jewish temple on the Temple Mount. Consequently, I contacted him and had him come over to the hotel and speak to our group. He spoke there, and then a couple of years later, we had him come back again. It was after that second time that I suddenly heard in the news a few months later that a Palestinian came up to him and shot him 4 times at point blank range. It didn't sound good. However, miraculously, Yehuda Glick survived. Then after his survival, he had run for office under the Likud party, but he was way back in position 33, and no one thought the Likud would come near to capturing that many seats. So he was not likely to have a place in the Knesset. But to the surprise of everyone, when the ballots came in, the Likud captured 30 seats. So Glick found himself only 3 seats away from being a member of the Israeli Knesset. Now, he's considered a radical because he advocates the building of the temple on the Temple Mount. Well, somebody resigned from the Likud, and that moved him up within 2 seats. And then another one went into the cabinet, and so he released his position from the Likud. That means that Yehuda Glick was 1 seat away. And then it happened. Someone else, for some reason, I don't remember the details, left the Knesset, and Yehuda Glick now is a member of the government in Israel. So I've been knowing Yehuda Glick for quite a long time, and he made his way here to America. He feels like this is a historic event, Donald Trump becoming the president, and I saw him, he said something so interesting. He said he believed that Donald Trump had the possibility of being a Cyrus. He said, you know, the prophecy about Cyrus being anointed to build the Jewish temple is in Isaiah 45. And he said that Trump is now the 45th president of the United States of America. Now, does that mean anything? Probably not. But it's an interesting coincidence, if it is a coincidence. So anyway, Yehuda Glick was here and talked to many of our officials while he was here, talking, and the people of Israel are so excited because finally they have an American administration that is friendly. They've been chafing under the 8-year reign of Barack Obama, and now they're so excited because they feel like they have someone who has their back instead of stabbing them in the back. Let's get back to the phones now. David is calling from right here in Texas. Hello, David.
I agree. Are you there?
Yes, right here, David.
Okay. I totally agree. I respect Donald Trump in his first 6 days as president of the United States much more than the total 8 years that Obama was in there. He's done more for America and setting our country straight in the eyes of this world and our country straight in the eyes of American citizens than Donald Trump did in 8 years in his first 6 days. And I hope he continues to be blessed by God and protected of God to do it. I wanted him to be president over Hillary Clinton, like most of us, because of his stand for the Lord. And everybody's got sin in their life, but at least he stands up and allows Christian prayers to be said in front of our country, which we desperately need right now with what we're facing. And he's there now, and God put him there.
Well, David, I just want to remind all of us that all of us need to continue to pray for Donald Trump and the entire administration because they need God's help. And if they don't have God's help, they'll go off track.
Absolutely.
But if we'll all humbly pray before God, I do believe now's the time for the prophecies about America to come to pass and to be implemented here. So I'm very thankful for that.
God bless.
Thank you very much, David. We appreciate it. Let's go now to Frank. Frank's calling from Indiana. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Irvin. I was just curious, and I'll take my answer off the air. I was wondering, the Bible talks about Israel losing the Battle of Armageddon, or in the process of losing when Jesus Christ returns and saves them, the rest of Israel. So my question is, what happens to America to the point where they're defending them to start with, but then when it comes to the Battle of Armageddon, where is the United States then?
I'm not sure I can answer your question, Frank, and it is a good question. The Bible plainly states that America will guard Israel during the final 3.5 years called the Great Tribulation. But there's not a clear explanation for where America is during the Battle of Armageddon. So I wish I could answer you, because I puzzled over this question a long time. I've thought that perhaps the veto power had been eliminated from the United Nations by then. There's a lot of people who want that to happen, and that America no longer had the power to veto the decision to move against Israel. I have wondered whether maybe the present administration would be moved off the scene. By then we would have another president that would sell Israel out. I simply do not know the answer yet. Perhaps we'll see some more light on that later. But I don't see anything in there. Like you mentioned, Israel's going to be on the brink of losing that war, even to the point of half of Jerusalem falling into captivity to the world government armies. And only the divine intervention by Jesus Christ himself is going to save Israel. So I cannot tell you today, and maybe we'll find it out later if maybe there's something in Scripture that we haven't noticed yet. But right now I cannot tell you what the United States will actually do during the Battle of Armageddon. Sorry, I can't do that. Let's go now to California. Ralph is calling. Hello, Ralph.
Yes, sir. Good day to you. I am calling in because I am astounded and troubled by this non-critical evaluation of President Trump. Just as they did unfounded, in my opinion, adulation of Barack Obama in 2008, and I'm a conservative. I didn't vote for him on either 8 or 12, but they're doing the same thing, and it's Christian community that seems to be doing it. And you basically, if you evaluate his personal life, where he's on his multiple marriages, he's talking about grabbing women, by inappropriate areas and all the other things he's done in the casinos and things like that he's operated. And then just because he says one thing and then he doesn't do it, and then he does a few things, all of a sudden everybody's falling all over him. Based upon your eschatological perspective, it indicates that the Antichrist is going to make the peace agreement and do these kinds of things. I'm not saying he is. I pray that he is benevolent, and God has put him there. But we need to sit back and evaluate this a little more closely.
Well, Ralph, I think you're raising valid points. I've thought about all those things. Of course, one of the most egregious things that he did was the statements that he made, 12, 14 years ago. Some very inappropriate remarks, some immoral remarks that he made. He did very straightforwardly apologize for those things that he did. That doesn't change the fact that he did them. You're right that he's on his third marriage, and I don't think that any of us as Christians like that. At the same time, the question is, can God use even an unsaved person? And I'm not saying that about Donald Trump one way or the other, but we know in the Bible that God did use heathen kings sometimes even to save Israel, such as Cyrus, the Persian king. And so he is at least moving America away from the world governmental system, and he is at least so far siding with Israel. Now, is he going to contribute in this peace agreement? I don't believe he should, and I don't believe Benjamin Netanyahu should. Benjamin Netanyahu has already embraced the two-state solution. Will he change back? Well, everybody's not going to change back, because there's going to be a peace agreement, and the Bible says they should not make this peace agreement. The peace agreement is going to end up leading them 7 years later into the Battle of Armageddon. So everything is not going to happen right here, but he certainly is much more pro-Israel and anti-world government by a million miles than Barack Obama was. So it looks like, according to what the Bible prophesies concerning the United States, it looks like he at least is moving in that direction, plus the people that are around him.
But you have to ask yourself, these ridiculous claims people are making. Barack Obama, if you recall, back in 2008, in his first 100 days, Congress had to ask him to stop sending so much legislation because he was wearing them out. and Donald Trump is doing similar things. And I'm not saying that he is, but when you look at it, implies in some perspectives that the Antichrist is the one that's going to make the peace agreement with Israel, between Israel and the neighbors. And also, if you ask yourself, in these days of the internet and mass media and Twitter and virtual instant communication worldwide, how would an adversarial entity come to power other than deceiving people, at least in the initial stages? I'm not saying that he is, and I'm hoping he isn't, but we've got to not just do this, prima facie adulation without any evaluation.
Well, your words of caution are well taken. However, I would just say that we do have the prophecies of the Bible that tell us where America is going. The Bible does say that America is going to not be a part of the one world government, and that America will defend Israel against that one world government. Before the election, I was asked many times, who's going to win? I said, well, I don't know who's going to win. But if we're to reverse course, and if now's the time to reverse course, then Donald Trump's going to win. If it's not time yet, Hillary will win, and then somebody will have to rise later to reverse course, because America is not going to be a part of the world government, and we are going to defend Israel against the world government. Those are the two prophecies that appear to me that what is happening right now is a fulfillment of those prophecies, and we certainly should not sell our soul to any politician. We should be very careful, very prayerful. At the same time, if God is doing something in our nation, we should also be thankful for it.
I agree with that, but you have to evaluate. First of all, I tend to agree with you that America is in Revelation 12, but there are other possibilities, and that's not definite proof. That's an assumption and a postulation.
Yeah. I'm running out of time, Ralph, so I'm going to cut you off there, but I'll just conclude by saying this. There are other people around Donald Trump that most Christians would think would be much more suitable, such as Mike Pence, a very religious man, Rance Priebus. I don't know him as well as I do Mike Pence. I've had my picture taken with Mike Pence. Of course, Mike Pence is just a breath away from the presidency. Who knows what God will do? We certainly are not wishing President Trump any ill whatsoever. Listen, thank all of you for your phone calls today. We appreciate it. One more time, if you'd like to help us in our last-minute drive to wipe out our media bill, the number to call is 1-800-ENDTIME, 1-800-363-8463. Do what you can. If you can't do anything, pray about it. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
End of the Age is a production of Endtime Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Endtime Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.